Okay. So the next step is we want to figure out, so with Jenga, you have blocks where you'll see the front end of the blocks and then blocks where you see the side, right? And so on this front row, you can start at the top or the bottom, but just decide which way are these going to be going. So if I want these ones, if these are going to be my squares that I see, then the next row, we're not going to see any squares, right? So you'll have 3 and then 1 and then 3 and then 1. It's going to be kind of like hopscotch, but for a 3-legged person, I guess, right? And so you'll have 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. And we need to figure out that pattern because we need to know which lines to extend, right? So 3 and then 1. And you can see down here where I tried to extend through the bottom, it gets a little bit confusing because there's so many different lines. Then 3, and then so my bottom will be, I'll see the side. Okay. So now that I have that information figured out, I can come in and I can draw the top of my Jenga tower because I know that these lines are going to extend back to the vanishing point. So I'm going to use a straight edge. There's the top of my tower. And that's pretty much done, right? Top of my tower's done. So now what I have to figure out is what do I do with this side? And I know for sure what's going to show up is the lines going away for each row. And so I can come and I can put those in. So from each corner, there will be a line that extends back, right? And you just got to be really careful here. Make sure you stay on that precise vanishing point. And it's weird, but you'll notice each one of these lines gets a little more steep each time, right? And it kind of throws you off because what you know gets in the way of what actually is happening. And so with perspective, we're trying to improve what you know so that you can actually see better and understand why you see that way. But I noticed a few of you guys, when I came around, didn't quite know what to do with the back corner or the bottom corner. And that's because it seems weird that this line gets really steep. But that really is how you actually see. It gets steeper and steeper as you move down the box. But there they are. The next challenge that we have is we don't know how far back to put our descending lines, right? Because there are going to be on this row, every other row, you're going to have 3 end pieces. You're going to have that grid. And so you can either use the top of the box to figure that out, or you can use the bottom of the box to figure it out. And honestly, I think the bottom of the box is the easiest because this is really, really compressed and tight. The bottom of the box is really spread out. And so I'll have more opportunity to be accurate at the bottom. But that means drawing through. You have to use your X-ray vision and see the bottom underneath. So the advantage of doing the top is we've already got it figured out. So I'm going to try it both ways. I'm going to sharpen my pencil real quick. And I'm going to see if they should, like if you do this perfectly, they should line up, but the challenge is we're humans and we're dealing with imperfect rulers and stuff. But if this was in a computer or something, it shouldn't matter which way you go, it should line up perfectly. Okay, so if we use the top, which I've already done all the work for, where this line intersects and where this line intersects is where the verticals should drop from. So if I get that lined up as close as I can and draw a little line here, that's where the first one should drop down. And then again, where that intersects, that's where the second one should drop down right there, right? And so now I could use this. This one's not quite long enough. Use this triangle to draw perfectly vertical lines from that spot. There's the first. There's the second. Oh, geez. So theoretically, that should be pretty good. But to me, it doesn't actually look very good because you can see I haven't quite got those verticals exactly perfect. That's the tricky part. So we'll do the best we can with that. If we did it from the back view, I'd take a line from this corner. I already did that. I could take my line from this corner. And then from this corner. So I'm kind of drawing through. So with the top, it's actually it's the same thing I'm doing down here at the bottom. Oh. Okay. So at the top, I'd figured out the top plane, right? And I'd gone to my measuring point here. Again, I'll zoom out. But for the top, I went from this corner to the measuring point, and I drew a line lightly across, and where it intersected with that line and that line shows me how far back these lines should be. I didn't draw them in because they're actually not on the top. The only lines I have on my top are these away lines, but I could have. But it's a vertical line that goes through that intersection, or sorry, it's a horizontal line that goes through these points, and then where it hits this is where they should go, right? But when I dropped them down, I had a hard time keeping my line perfectly vertical, and so it got confused down here at the bottom. So I was trying again. So now down here, there's one of my points, and here's the other point. And I can use that to kind of check where my lines ended up. So one of them should be hitting right here. And actually that first line I didn't do too bad on. Look at how that hit right where that crossed. Do you guys see that? I'm gonna zoom in. So I tried this again, just using the bottom instead of the top. And so there is my the first measuring mark hits somewhere about here. And then my second measuring mark hits somewhere right about there. And that's where I missed. My line's off on that one.
Can we just guess that measuring mark?
The measuring mark?
Like, for the one to the side.
I'm not guessing.
How are you making this?
So I started out by drawing the bottom of the square, right? That's what that line and that line are. Then I drew a line to my measuring point to figure out where the back corner is, right? But that same line where it intersects these lines shows where these lines should line up. And so I'm pulling them over from this spot and from this spot. But I tried it from the top and I just didn't quite get that line right. And so I'm going to erase this line. It's not confusing at all, right, Mac? Yeah. And I do have a drawer full of these little mechanical pencil erasers that you can borrow. But I really trust this mark that I made, and I really trust this mark. And so rather than try to just create a vertical line, I'm going to connect the dots. So I'm going to draw a line from that dot to that dot, and I'm going to trust that that's actually more accurate than my first attempt. And that looks better. But now I have a big old mess down in this area that I'm going to have to clean up, right? Because that gets all confused. So I'm not going to completely erase these lines because I may need them later. You're going to see. But I am going to lighten them up. So if we were looking at the front of this Rubik's or this Jenga tower, where's my smaller triangle? Did I give that one up? Anyway, so my top is odd. So this bottom row, I'm going to come back in and redraw a little heavier. So this front block is like this. And then the top is solid here. I just want to work on my line quality for a minute to make it more believable. And so that my final lines are more important than all these measuring lines. Okay. So I have a line here. And then these vertical lines are only going to go every other block, but I'm going to have a division here, a division here, a division here, a division here, and a division here. Let's put this one back in. That'll be a little stronger. Okay, so now here comes, you thought that was challenging. Here comes the fun / challenging part, is we're gonna take some of these blocks out. So to start, I'm gonna pick one that's on this far edge. We're gonna get rid of this block right there, okay? So if this block is gone, we have to figure out what we will see. And so one thing I know for sure is if we get rid of this block, this line right here is gonna disappear, right? because that block's no longer there. And so we'll see this corner going back to the vanishing point. Now the challenge is we don't know how far back to draw this line, or do we? Do we have the information that we need to decide if that line is going to all of a sudden start to come over or not? Okay. And the way you figure that out is we look for the back corner of our box, right? And what we find out with that back corner of our box is that we won't see, because that'll actually go to about that point. So this line's going to be a little heavier, and we're going to see something like that. And we could start to put in a little bit of shadow just to help our eye realize that there's a piece missing there. But we're still missing something. We'd see something else on that plane. What is it? These lines of the pieces coming through are still going to be visible. And so I have a couple ways I can find that. I've already found them on the bottom, right? And so if I draw a line vertically, that'll show me where the end of these three boxes are. Or I could come over to this side and find this intersection and bring it over. But there is going to be at least one. So let's really quickly, do I trust that vertical I drew? I just eyeballed it. I'm going to trust it. So one of these lines is going to be there. The next one would be right. So we have this intersection here, an intersection there. That one's going to be hidden. So that's what this would look like if we took out that piece. Does that make sense? So now let's take away this whole piece right here. So if we get rid of this piece, again, I know we're going to lose this line, and this corner is going to disappear. But the nice thing is I have some of this information that I need. So for example, if I bring over, so this line is going to go back to here, and then when we hit that corner is where the next block starts. And so I can bring that across. And then to figure out how far back to go, we go from this corner to our vanishing point. So that's going to go to there. And then this is going to become vertical. And again, I'm just looking at this line here and drawing a parallel line straight down. And so now we know what we can keep. This line we keep. And this line we keep. And we can throw in a little bit of shadow to show that there's an overhang there. And what you're going to do, so we've just taken away 2 pieces. You're going to take away 5. So 3 more. You could take away, like what if we took away this center piece? With that one, I don't even have to erase. I can just go straight to this corner and take it back in. But again, the question is, am I going to see any of this back edge. And the way you find that is you go back to the back edge here, find where these two lines intersect, and there will actually be a little bit of a hole visible right there. And so again, we could add in some shadow. I might change my line direction here to show vertical. Oh, you guys didn't tell me I was off the screen. Jeez.
You're off the screen.
See what I did there?
You're off.
Took out a centerpiece. So, but you have to figure out if this goes all the way through, will you see the hole on the other side or will it just be a tunnel? The further up you go, the more likely you'll see it. The further down you go, if I took this piece out, that one is above, this one you would just see the tunnel, you wouldn't see the hole on the other side. Okay? And we're going to clean these up. We're going to turn these into nice drawings. We are not going to do this all today. We're going to do all of next time for these as well. So you'll have 2 full class periods. So if you have any perspective issues, we'll work those out. If you have issues like where you're working on it, I'll help. But you're going to take this Jenga tower. You're going to remove 5 of the blocks, your choice of which blocks you remove. And we're going to turn it into a nice drawing.